But a conversation can save you $100,000. I mean, being in the community, paid the investment tenfold just from 1 hour of a conversation that we had on a mastermind call with Chris Voss the week before you're closing on a deal.
It was for us at the time. And it also was the first syndication. So we're actually first time raising capital that's not coming from our own family. So, and right at the time you're doing due diligence and we're about to close, COVID hit. It was like March 2020, COVID hit, and the world's like melting down. Everything's locked down. This is the first time we have like hard money in the deal. Like our earnest money is non-refundable and all this stuff. And it's like, all right, what are we going to do? So lean on the community. What are we going to do about this? The world's melting down. So lean on Gino, lean on the community. And then
secretly Vince is saying, I'm going to kill Gino.
Again, the confidence in the group, I was like, we'll figure it out. But at the time, March 2020, the world was ending. Nobody knew what was happening. At the same time, the Chris Voss, the mastermind call with him came on, and he was going to the round table, kind of giving his tips on negotiation. And then, Gino gave me a shout out. He's like, hey, Vince has a problem right now. You're supposed to close the deal. The money's about to go hard. We got all this COVID lockdowns. They're talking about eviction moratoriums. Nobody has to pay rent. Every landlord in the country was freaking out during this time. And Chris gave me a couple tips on how to negotiate, how to go back to the table, even after, negotiations were supposedly settled. And he's, here's how you open that conversation. Here's some tips on how to go back to that table, lay the circumstances and go in for an ask of another concession. So I wrote that down, went prepared, and it was like 7 pages of his tactics from the never split the difference, of every possible thing that they could say I thought about and already had a rebuttal for, and continuing to drive that conversation toward the outcome I wanted, which was about $100,000. It was $80,000 of a concession in cash in order to weather the storm of eviction moratoriums. And they didn't have any counters. It was immediate. The first couple minutes of the call, of course, they were a little frustrated. But every time they brought up something, I had a counter for it. Every way they tried to move on that chessboard, I had a counter of why we needed this credit in order to continue to stay in this deal. And they ended up conceding. It was a $80,000 credit or a little bit over that, and a full month of rent credit. They didn't prorate the rents, which is another 10 or 15 grand. And we ended up closing that deal, and that gave us the cushion to weather that storm.